now the poorest among students, the most deprived amongst the youth.
There are improvements with each subsequent version, but there have been productionization issues.
Hi there, the Aakash tablet, the world's cheapest computer. The Aakash tablet, priced at approximately 2,000 rupees, intended to revolutionize Indian education by giving university students across India in rural areas and small towns access to cutting-edge education and information on this Aakash tablet. But now, 2 years after it was launched, the supplies of the Aakash devices seems to have dried up and the Aakash dream seems to have died. Although Aakash developer Datawind insists that Aakash is still alive. Has the Aakash dream become a gigantic white elephant? We're asking. Tweet us at IBN Live with the hashtag Aakash. Joining us, we're very privileged to have Suneet Singh Tuli, CEO of Datawind, joining us. Satish Jha, you are founder, chairman of One Laptop Per Child India Foundation. Gagandeep Sapra, editor of TheBigGeek.com, and Prashanta Kumar Roy, president and chief editor at Cyber Media's ICT Group. Thanks everyone very much indeed for joining us. So, address the question we're asking on the program. Has the Aakash dream become a white elephant? Has the Aakash dream died? Is it alive? What are we looking at?
So it's very much alive. It's neither a white elephant and nothing's dried up. Okay. Remember, this product being purchased by the Indian government at 2,000 rupees or so, okay, gives you a Cortex-8 1 gig processor, the same caliber processor that the original iPad had. Has 512 megabytes of RAM, double the RAM that the original iPad has, at 1/10 of the price. As a computing internet device, at that price point, it is still the most powerful product in the market, in the world, without question. We've delivered almost 500,000 units to consumers. We've delivered about 40,000 to the government. By this time next week, we'll be about 70,000 units to the government. Yes, customs and other issues delayed the project, but you know, remember, in India, we're famous as a country that when the Indian cricket team won the World Cup, we had to give them a fake cup because we couldn't get the real one custom cleared in time. So yes, it took us a few more weeks.
Right.
The target was March 31st. It'll take us another 2-3 weeks.
But why these delays? You know, that's the question. Why are the units being delayed?
So this is the process of the bureaucracy in India when you go through customs and you need duty exemptions and things of that nature. My commercial product gets through customs in an instant. When you pay full duty, there are no issues. The first 100,000 units are part of an R&D project. And since they're part of an R&D project, there are duty exemptions that were part of it. Okay? IIT Bombay, who's the purchaser of these initial units and who's doing these tests, issued these certificates, and customs took time to actually, you know, accept
let me read out the HRD minister's statement. Pallam Raju is saying Aakash was a very good initiative. It generated very good interest, but let's not get obsessed with the hardware. You know, this sounds as if the minister is reading an elegy to Aakash. Has the ministry lost interest? Is it that you suspect that Pallam Raju has given up on Aakash?
Of course not. Let me tell you, it is the media reading in grammar and interpreting things that have not been said. The ministry is in the process of launching a tender for 5.7 million units. That's the next tender, okay? 5.7 million units doesn't indicate that they've lost interest. One of the things the ministry did from the start, you know, a lot of money got put into this entity called the National Mission for Education through ICT.
Right.
And it had 3 legs. The first was to create network connectivity to universities and colleges, okay? I don't know the exact number, but you know, many hundreds and hundreds of colleges and universities across the country have been given free broadband. That was access, first step. The second was content. They've created tens of thousands of hours of online lectures and ebooks and remote evaluation tools and remote learning tools. They're creating content and apps for what they believe. The third was a low-cost device.
Right.
Okay? This was the third leg of it. What the Honorable Minister is saying is, remember, this wasn't the only aspect. Content and access were the other aspects, and we're bringing in the financial muscle to drive pricing
So when
down
he's
in the market.
saying don't get obsessed with the hardware, he's talking about all the other aspects.
He's talking
of
about the ecosystem
HRD
that they're
ministry looking
developing.
at it. Is the media giving Akash a hard time, as Sunith is saying?
Quite a
Is
few.
the media uproar, unnecessary uproar about
Quite
why
a
is it delayed, why are the units arriving on time?
It was made out to be such a big dream, you know, that this is the next computing device for everybody who wants a affordable device other than the bottom of the pyramid. And everybody just dreamt of it to come to market very early. So yes, media has given up in a lot of words. You know, we gave up on the first unit. A lot of us gave up on the
You also
second
said
unit.
earlier in the program that there's no will.
Yes. So I believe there is no will from people to accept this device.
From people.
From people.
Which people?
Everyone. You know,
Everyone.
I take a kid out of a government school and I show him this device. He wants my iPad.
Oh, he doesn't want Akash, he wants iPad.
Because that's his aspiration, right?
Do you want to come in, Mr. Jha?
Yes, of course. I would say the question was posed wrongly to begin with. It all began with one laptop per child about
Right.
6 years back, when the idea was everything was about $1,000 plus, and Negroponte said $100. When he said $100, government said 1/10 of a mighty, so $10. And then we created a 10 inches by 5 inches USB pen drive, which made us look like wonderful people all over the world. Then they said, well, let's go and do something. I said, in India, this machine, one laptop per child, costs
That $10
15,000
computer scheme, which turned out to be a pen drive. I remember
Then
that
he said,
one.
then I said, this is 15,000 rupees in India. So the guy said, let's drop another zero. We'll do 1,500. That 1,500 was actually on that day $35. So $35 is stuck. That's the way it came about. And then because dollar changed, so it became 2000, 1936 or 2003, whatever, etc. Point is, it was a question wrongly posed. That's number one. Second, it was a question of, they said Sakshat, right? Simputer, Mobilis, Sakshat, and Akash. Sakshat to Akash was bait and switch. You said you will do $35 Sakshat, which had better specs. Then you couldn't do it, so you said, let's do something new. It's so different, let's give it a new name, so Akash. I admire Sunith for taking up the challenge. That's totally separate from the way government is going about it. I told Kapil Sibal then, you will have black eyes and bloody face, don't do it. His IITs can do it. I said they cannot because they are a teaching institution, they don't know how to create a product. He said IISc can do it. I said IISc does second tier research. From research to going to this way is a long way.
So it's a bungle by the HRD ministry.
Only
you think it's
exactly.
a bungle by the HRD ministry.
Of
It's
Kapil
like
Sibal's.
that 2009 $10 computer which became a pen drive. In the 90s also there was that push to make affordable desktop computer. In fact, the HRD ministry suddenly changed its mind.
Respond to
So
that,
the
right?
ministry has bungled.
You know, unfortunately, there's nobody here from the ministry to defend it.
Right.
Okay? My role isn't to defend the ministry, right? But I don't see it that way. If version 1 didn't do as well, you shouldn't try version 2. This is a country that has 68%. That has
Something to say.
68%.
do you want to quickly respond to
Yes.
that?
My point is, whenever something is available to the world, it's a human technology. If something is done, don't repeat it. Let's create innovation on the side, not as a mainstream thing to meet the constitutional obligations of making our children those who are potentially Nobel laureates, and we turn them into domestic help. That's what our education policy does. This is not about creating a hardware, it's about education policy. And that's where MHRD got it wrong, because if you want to create MHRD, I mean, a tablet, go to Ministry of IT, go to somebody who actually creates it. So they shouldn't have got into it. They had no capacity to understand the question.
Let me just bring Prashanto in here. Prashanto, do you want to respond to what Mr. Jha is saying, that in fact it's the MHRD which has severely bungled. It has no business to get into this because it simply does not know how to integrate this hardware into its educational objectives.
Yeah, you know, Sagarika, I agree with that to some extent, and I was quite a staunch critic of the program. There were lots of things which were wrong in the way the program was achieved and started off. But having said that, having come this far, I think the government would be stupid to abandon the program at this point, having put in so much of time and effort into it. I think the biggest issue which has been there is possibly as a result of Mr. Sibal's handling, you know, two ministries, the ICT and the HRD. He also, and maybe Sunith and his passion for manufacturing, this whole objective of education as the primary objective got confused with manufacturing in India.
That's the question I wanted to put to you as well.
Two things had been done, a clear decision, a clear decision had been taken on the specs and various other things, including, you know, who would, instead of 5 different committees, if there had been a clear, right now there is a pretty competent, you know, setup headed by IIT Bombay. If that had been done, and if it had been outsourced at least for the initial run of 100,000 or even 1 million to Chinese EMS manufacturers, you would have had the program and the tablet in hand.
That's a very good point, Prashantho. Let me put that to, let me just get Sunit to respond to that. Is Akash about education, or is it about pride in Indian manufacture? And if it's about education, and if the idea is to get the units out to the students, why was it simply not given to a Chinese vendor who could have produced it on time?
So I think it's about both. But why is this inferiority complex that it can't be done in India? You know, if there's this is the issue of will. The will isn't that there isn't demand for it. There's more demand for this product than any other device in the market.
Prashantho, why can't it be done in India?
Okay, so here's the thing. If you take any example of manufacturing here, take Nokia and the smartphones and the cell phones. You know, Nokia for 12 years it imported phones until it got to the level where the market reached 200 or 300 million. There were some tens of millions of market that it was seeing, and 12 years down the line it started setting up manufacturing in Sri Perumbudur. So the point is, if you want to ramp up a project and you have an objective of education, then to say simultaneously that you have to start making it in India. So that's the thing, you know, if you
the
have
manufacturing
that ego thing coming in the way,
ecosystem
then
is not here in
going
India.
to be able to ramp it up.
If I can just take one
ramp
point.
it up
Sorry.
later.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I think I apologize.
Go ahead.
Because it's incorrect to assume the manufacturing ecosystem doesn't exist in India. 16% of India's GDP is manufacturing. Nokia has made 500 million mobile phones in India. You know what we did as a result of this project? We set up India's first touchscreen manufacturing facility in Amritsar. We make touchscreens in India, the first company that's making touchscreens in India. You know what? That kind of innovation is necessary in this country. Okay, the result of that, if I look at this process, maybe the result of that added a few weeks or a month or two in the overall project timeline. I think it's worth nurturing manufacturing in India. It's not a sin to make an effort to manufacture in India.
I would say, Kapil said in June 2009, in 3 months I will give it. Those 3 months have become, he is gone. He still couldn't do it. Actually, without being a minister, I gave more OLPC tablets, computers to Indians than Kapil could give as a minister, Akash to Indians. The problem is, the question is wrongly posed. First thing, IIT Bombay could not even write the specifications in 3 years' time. They're crowdsourcing it. Ask Kannan, ask Phatak, they didn't know how to write the specifications.
The question of creating this $35 computer, that in itself is a wrong kind of a priority.
Very wrong.
That is a wrong priority.
That's wrong.
You completely disagree with that.
I completely disagree. Look, we try to understand the statistics of this country. There are 220 million kids in school. There are 360 million kids in those age groups that should be in school. 140 million kids are not in school. This country cannot afford the kind of devices that are being proposed to it. The market gouges its customers. You know, no disrespect to companies like Apple, but remember, Apple's cash hoard right now is the equivalent of 12 years of India's education budget, 12 years. India decided, the visionaries decided that they want to help drive the price down. What's wrong with that? When Nicholas Negroponte...
What's wrong with driving the price down?
There's nothing wrong with driving the price down. What is wrong is we built up a large story. 3 months you'll have it. We're not getting it on time. You know, there are delays, and I agree that it's about both. It's about making it available to the people for education, as well as building up our infrastructure to build it here. That's the only way to drive costs down. But somewhere we got mixed up with timeline. Somewhere we got mixed up with the question being posed wrongly, that can we deliver this in 3 months? And if we're saying that we'll deliver this in 3 months, and we're not, we as media will get after it, that why didn't it happen?
I think it's a 12-year-long story from Simputer onwards. We have hyped up things so much, and we don't worry about the first question. A child who doesn't get education today, his or her life is ruined forever. And that was a 12 years of problem, but my problem is this, that if IIT Bombay cannot write specifications in 3 years and crowdsources through IIT mail list and can't get it right, and if this machine is available to you, if you gave it to every single child in India, your budget was $6 billion, and the government was spending $30 billion.
Respond to that, that if that machine is available, why not simply buy that machine?
Can I? The machine is not for everyone. That machine's for a child.
Exactly.
We also have people who are not children. who need access. We also have people who need to get connected. We have a driver, we have a maid that needs connectivity. It's not just about children. It's not just about children.
It's not just about children.
It's about everyone.
In the 4 years, India has given access to about 100 times more people than Akash would give by end of June now, already. In other words, the question of access we are talking about has been sorted out by the market to the extent government was thinking about it beyond that.
1 laptop per child has given much more access than Akash will give. Okay, there's lots you have to respond to. There's lots you have to respond to, but I'm going to have to take a break. We'll come back and get Sunit to respond to all the comments and accusations that have been leveled at him. That's after the break. Has the Akash tablet project become a white elephant? That's what we're discussing. Mr. Satish Jha is here, and you have with you the OLPC.
That's right.
We already had the OLPC before we thought about Akash. The question I want to raise is, if we had OLPC, and you're going to give me a demonstration how it stands up to water, how it's solar powered, so it can be
yes,
worked
just
in...
look at this. And it still works. It's a machine which is 9 hours of power. It can work in the dust. It can work, and you can walk in the rains. It is designed.
How do you charge it in a place without electricity? Which
you can have solar. You can have a hand crank. You can have a cow power. You can have buffalo power, bicycle power, any which power.
So if we had this, why did we need the Akash?
Right point. Very simple. Very simple. Cost. This costs 10,000 rupees without taxes. This costs 2,000 rupees without taxes.
That's the point.
You have 14 crore. 140 million kids in this country that you got to get into school. Cost matters. You know, before the break, Satish made the comment, okay, OLPC is delivered more than, without having the government, more than Akash will ever do, or by June. We've already delivered 42,000 units to the government. By Tuesday, they'll have received 65,000 units. We've delivered 500,000 units, 5 lakh units to consumers. We're not in the same league. For anybody to say...
Some of the figures that are being put out by the media are wrong. So it's not 20,000 delivered. You're saying you've delivered 42,000.
Remember, I'm talking about today, and the media was talking about 10 days ago.
Right, so today you've delivered 42,000.
As of today, we've delivered 42,000. Right. As of Tuesday, we expect to have delivered 65,000. Okay? And within a couple of weeks thereafter, we expect to have completed the 100,000. Okay? The work that's being done by entities like IIT Bombay and others, you know what? It's not just crowdsourcing. There's a lot of intelligent work being done on creating applications and learning environment. They ran a program to teach 10,000 teachers. When was the last time you could have teach 10,000 teachers in one session?
Right.
You know, these are valuable efforts that are being made.
So the choice really is OLPC 10,000, Akash 2,000. So that's why we need Akash.
The choice actually is this. Choice is this. Patient has cancer. If you want to give the patient aspirin. Aspirin doesn't cure cancer. And what we're saying is it will remove your pain. The gap between anything you do as a computer and OLPC is basically of, if this is God, every computer is a stone which you call God. That's the kind of difference you're looking at.
No. This is not correct.
I would disagree.
Let me tell you, it is a bit of an extension, okay, to call OLPC God and compare this to a stone.
As a metaphor.
Today, okay, this is way more powerful than the OLPC.
I disagree.
Okay, but more processing power, more RAM, okay? And this runs the OLPC software. So much so that OLPC has decided not to make those anymore, okay? And
that's again wrong.
No, OLPC has decided not to make those anymore, and instead port their software on the Akash for the market.
Okay, let me get you to respond to
Sunit, so I will not
let me get you to respond to the other question that we were raising, that if iPad is out there, why not simply make it possible for students to buy
if we have to subsidize, why not subsidize anything? Why not subsidize anything that the student wants? But it's not about creating subsidy, it's about creating access for somebody to be able to go out and buy a product. Right? That's a product, this is a product, this is a product.
So where do you stand? OLPC, tablet,
That's
Akash?
great if I'm K6. If I'm 6th standard student, if I'm nursery to 6th. This is great if I'm 6th and beyond. This is great if I'm working.
If you're a university student.
This is great if I'm a university student.
Right, you want to respond to that?
I will not be able to use that on a university level.
I'm very happy saying, please, if you want India's children at 5 years of age to realize potential as Nobel laureate, give them OLPC.
I agree.
If they're already 10, 12 years, 15 years, you can give them because they haven't worked with this.
So that's the compromise.
No, it's not a compromise. That's the evolution. Those who can use this, let them use this. But where nothing worked, this works.
I think it's important to understand today's reality. Today's reality is that OLPC has decided not to make the EXO devices.
That's not true. What I'm saying is
I
we have
can show you
decided,
press releases
we've
from the
also
OLPC
decided, we have
that
also
says
decided
exactly that.
to
And-
have Android tablets, and this is one. I'm showing it to you.
And
Oh,
OLPC,
you also have an Android
This
tablet.
is an Android tablet, which is designed, but this is all about education. It's filled up with all educational applications. The child becomes curious about things. How do children learn and connect the dots? How do they begin to learning? That's the basic idea. And then you make technology that helps a child learn all that. That's what OLPC is about.
Right.
And if it means Android, we will do that too. But this remains with the touch screen. This remains because what this can do, this can never do. Because if it falls, it's gone. If it falls, it will not. If I throw this, he will immediately stop me from thinking. And I can just drop it here, and I'm fine.
Wow, nothing happened with that?
Nothing will
That-
happen.
that-
That's built
That's
for
the first time I've seen a computer being dropped.
yes.
So no,
but are you
it's-
willing to pay 5 times as much for it?
It's not 5 times as much.
course.
This is about education. 10,000 rupees is not even 2 buffets in a 5-star hotel. And a cabinet minister told
Mr.
me.
Jha,
Let me
Mr.
tell
Jha,
you,
let me
this
interrupt
billion
there.
forgotten Indians don't eat buffets in 5-star
Yeah.
hotels.
No, no,
So
but
I-
Okay, let me
ministers
just
do.
quickly bring in
Ministers
Prashant,
do.
who's a little bit
Ministers
left out
do,
there.
and we have the
Gurgaon.
budget.
Buying it from
Prashant, where do you
themselves.
stand? OLPC and Akash? Did we need Akash when we had OLPC?
You know, Shagarika, I think that's a bit of a theoretical discussion at this point. For various reasons, the OLPC was not, not selected, not identified. It did not work out, and there was a variety of reasons for it. You know, you can go back in history, but it's not seen as sufficiently versatile across the different age groups. You know, like Gagan was saying, you know, it's pretty much aimed at kids. The Akash, if you see, it's not being sent into the schools at all at this stage. It's actually going and starting with college kids. I think going forward, you've got to see what's going to happen with this. And yes, you can subsidize a product like the UP government is subsidizing laptops. But of course, for a given budget, the numbers that you can pick there, there's an order of 10 or 100 kind of magnitude of what you can do with the Akash. I think, having identified a program with all its flaws, this needs to go forward and make
This
it
needs to
happen.
go forward and
there
it has
again,
to
I think the
happen.
manufacturing
Right.
thing is going to be a bottleneck.
Let me give you the last word. Is the Akash project on track?
The Akash project may be 2 or 3 weeks late, but it's on track. There is a vision to equip all 220 million students in this country with these kind of devices, and they will continue doing that.
And
okay?
the delays
And
are because?
the delays are because the customs process took longer than we expected. I've said it in the media, I put it out in the release, this is the reality. Yes, it took us 3 weeks longer than the March 31st deadline. The 3-year-old history of what was there or not there is irrelevant today. Okay, what's critical, right, is that everybody that believes they've got a better solution, the government puts out a tender, the next tender comes out for 5.7 million units, okay, and are going to put out an open source tender. Let everybody bid it. Who's
Let
stopping
everybody
them?
bid. Okay. That's a good point.
My point is, if you're going to reduce everything to something which is like aspirin when they need chemotherapy, then what you get is basically junk. And this is what, because people know how to respond to these things. Suneet may be doing a good job, but by and large, will you tender for minds? Will you tender for Nobel
So
laureates?
this is about education policy, it's about
Exactly.
education priorities, it's
Precisely.
not about the hardware. Very quickly, we're out of time. Last
No,
words.
I think, so aspirin or chemotherapy, there's both set of patients. Some can do with this, some can do with that.
Right.
Right? And there's a definite audience for the OLPC. And there's a definite audience for the EXO hardware. But this runs the longer term. And
It runs
look at
the
the
longer
cost.
term.
I can buy 5 of these and I buy 1 of those.
Right. So you
It's at the end of the day, cost.
cost, and it's the cost that actually makes the perfect sense. We're ending on a hopeful note. Mr. Suneet Singh Tuli saying that Akash is very much on track. Yes, there have been delays, but the project is not dead. Akash is not dead. It is on track, and lots of students out there are going to get that low-cost Akash tablet with which they're going to access information, knowledge of the very cutting edge. Mr. Satish Jha, skeptical, saying that you can't reduce education to hardware. Gagandeep Sapra saying that in fact the Akash is still the best, compares favorably with the OLPC. And in fact Prashant saying that once this Akash program has started, it's gone so far, it cannot now be called off by the HRD ministry. Thank you very much indeed, Suneet Singh Tuli, Satish Jha, Gagandeep Sapra, Prashant Kumar Roy. Thanks so much for joining us. We're asking, has this project become a white elephant? Is that the perception out there? 90 are saying yes. So I'm glad we did this program, and I'm glad you set the record straight. Thanks for watching.
Brought to you by